Hey everybody, welcome to today's live stream. Hope everybody's doing good today. So we're going to be filling cracks on a blank that overheated. So if you didn't see the 50K subscriber video, I would recommend go check it out. I'll put a link here so you can kind of see all the information of what's going on. Most of you guys probably saw that one. So it's in that video, I wanted to do a project that was going to be kind of an epic project, and I got deep pour to try out, and I just poured way too much of it at a time, and it overheated and cracked, I think. So there could have been some other problems. You know, the big problem with that, I was rushing things. I was trying to get that video up and do all this stuff, and you know, sometimes when you're in a hurry, you don't really think about what's going on. What ended up happening was I kind of, in my head, I was estimating a lot less resin, and I think it might have been able to handle maybe half of what I poured, but I poured 3 gallons of deep pour in a very big cavity, and that stuff was really never meant to be poured like that. I guess in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping it would be okay, it could handle it, but it couldn't. So we got some cracks, and luckily I was able to salvage the blank, and frankly, I think it was a better project, or at least a better video in the end. And I did get some cool projects. I made a lamp that kind of utilized the cracking. So, you know, the blank worked out. But we had some issues, you know, with some cracking and stuff. And so I got to use the blank for something different than I intended. I had a really fun time making this lamp. I made a couple of them. And we have a lot of other blanks that I cut out of that gigantic one that overheated. And so today, what we're going to be doing, the core of that, where all the cracking really kind of was focused, the middle of the blank, we're going to fill these cracks and see if we can make something cool out of these cubes. So we got one that's just kind of some painted burl, kind of just a hybrid blank. And then we have the other one, the original project, for anybody that didn't see the video, I wanted to make a Millennium Falcon hybrid sphere that was going to be the size of a bowling ball. It was literally, I was going to make a bowling ball and actually go use it. So there's a Millennium Falcon in this one. You can probably kind of see it hanging out in there. So we're going to try and salvage these guys. I don't plan to turn these. I don't think it's a good idea. The cracked, you know, like the surfaces of these cracks are really smooth. And that's one of those areas where resins don't like to stick to smooth things. But I think that we can fill it, and if all we're doing is just, you know, kind of sanding and polishing the surfaces of these things, it's not spinning and we're jamming chisels into it, I think we should be able to get something out of these. It should be kind of an interesting thing. So I'm excited to try it. Actually, a big thank you to Lumelite. They sent some more, another 3 gallons of deep pour out, and I'm actually going to use it for this. And this is not necessarily this probably isn't the best way. So far, I haven't used deep pour for anything that it actually was intended for. So I just want to make that statement. This stuff was really made to be poured in, you know, I think one thing that's kind of a little bit misleading is the name deep pour. If you're coming from seeing projects that I've made with a Lumelite Clear Slow Set, you know, we're making massive blanks where it's like a big mass all kind of centered. And that resin can handle that kind of thing because it's formulated not to get too hot. Now, deep pour is also formulated to not get as hot, but when they say deep pour, really what you need to kind of put yourself in the mindset of what the point of this resin is. It's deep compared to a normal bar top epoxy. That's kind of what they're saying is you can pour it deeper than a bar top epoxy like Amazing Clearcast Plus or, you know, the regular one. So put it in that kind of category, and it's deep. Now I think that you could probably get away with easily pouring like 2-3, well, I know it can handle like a 2-inch pour like for a river table, but the difference is that's spread out where you're talking like maybe 2 inches thick and way wide. You could pour 10 gallons of it if it was a long thin stream like that. It can probably handle, I would say it can probably handle up to like 3, maybe 4 inches even, but I had this huge mass that it was way too much. And after it was over with, I'm thinking back and I'm like, yeah, that was not going to work. So anyway, and again, in this case, The reason why I want to use the deep pour for filling these cracks, it has like a 2-hour working time, and it's a thin viscosity resin. It's about the same thickness, let's say, as Alumilite Clear Slow Set, about the same viscosity level. I have some amazing clear cast, and that would be a pretty good option for doing something like this, but it's a really thick resin. It's much thicker than deep pour. So what I want to use this for is the super long working time, so it can kind of work its way and get into all the little cracks and crevices that need to be filled in here. What was the other thing? I guess that's the main thing. Long working time, but the thin viscosity is also, that's the other thing, it's going to let it get into places that otherwise, like the Amazing Clear Cast, a really thick resin may not flow into some of these little cracks. So that's why I want to use it. And, you know, this is something where I'm going to have to let it sit for like a week probably, because again, it wasn't really meant to be poured in super small amounts like this. But it'll cure given enough time. So I'm not that worried about it. I've actually used it for similar things and it cured just fine, but it did take a little bit longer than, you know, like overnight. It was a few days before it really hardened up. So I'm not too worried about it. I think everything's going to work out good. And again, the end project of this is not going to be a turning blank. So it's not like we're going to be applying massive forces to this and, you know, all that kind of craziness. I think it should be pretty simple to just polish these up and see what we get. So that's a lot of talk for what's happening today. So let's see. Is there anything else? So along with the 50K subscriber video, there's also a giveaway. So make sure to, I'm pretty sure I put a link, right? Yeah. So go over to that video and it'll tell you how to get entered into the giveaway. I got a blanks package for one winner. Lots of blanks. There's like 10 or 15 or something like that of all kinds of different blanks that we made on the show. And then the other prize is going to be the pedestal bowl. So the big one that we made with the pink and green. There was a collaboration with Doug. I kind of finally started, it finally dawned on me that there's probably a lot of people that watch my channel that, you know, would want to get entered into these giveaways, but they don't turn or they don't have a workshop. And if I gave them blanks, or maybe they just don't do that type of, you know, work. They do resin casting stuff, but, you know, turning blanks are not going to be very useful for them. I was like, I should give away some projects. So anyway, we got those two giveaway prizes up for grabs. Plus, today's the last day. There's discount codes, 10% discount at Spirocraft as well as Turner's Warehouse. And then a 15% discount at Alumilite. So today is the last day for Turner's Warehouse and Spirocraft. I have links in the show notes. And then the Alumilite discount code is 15%. They extended it till about November 6th, I think it was. So go and take advantage of those. Alumilite, usually they have, you know, they oftentimes they'll have like a 10% discount code on certain things, but 15 is a really hefty one. So make sure if you need to stock up on anything, silicone, dyes, powders, or resins, make sure you use that code right now. Get in on that and get stocked up. So, hey, I see OJ's here and Scott's here too. Lots of people. So I'm not going to go through. I'm going to say hi to everybody, but I'd like to, let's roll in on this thing and I'll kind of show you what I came up with on how to do this basically, how we're going to get things rolling here. So I'm going to switch to this view. Again, we're going to be using the deep pour. Probably not the best option. You know, it's not necessarily the best type of project to use that resin for. Eventually I am going to make a resin river table, and you know that I'm going to be using deep pour for that, and I'm sure it'll work great, but I do think it's going to work well for this. It's just going to take a little longer to fully harden up. All right, so we got two things going on here. We have the Millennium Falcon one, and I have a couple of different options, a couple ideas. So I have these little plastic pieces, and I was thinking what we can do is just hot glue you know, on the outsides of these things, basically run a little bead, you know, down along the bottom and then up the sides, and we'll just put 4 of these guys on and pour some resin down in here. Hopefully that will keep everything trapped in there. It's just a matter of kind of gluing on 4 sheets of plastic. Now, I am going to be honest, I've never really done this before. I'm sure there's a billion better ways to do this, or at least different. One thing I am going to say is I don't trust myself. I don't know that this is going to not leak. So what we're going to do is, I got these little silicone pie things right here, And when we're done, when we have everything and we're gonna pour it, I'm just gonna stick these things in these little pans so that if it does leak, it's not a big deal. It's not gonna go everywhere. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you try this, I don't know if this is the most optimal way of doing this or not. I'm just gonna try a couple different things, see how it works, but I am gonna keep, keep my head on about this. Now, the other way that I'm gonna do this, we're gonna try another one, and this is kind of how like Heath Knuckles makes molds for casting like hybrids and stuff. This is plastic, what do they call this? What do they call this stuff? I can't think of what it's called. It's, like the sign making stuff. Corrugated plastic, there it is. Corplaz, some people call it. Corrugated plastic, and I just cut a bunch of things out. Now I cut a real long one out, and what we're gonna do is fold up these two sides, and then we're gonna hot glue ends on this. And that should also kind of do the same thing. Another way to go is you could build a full-on HDPE box and just shove it in there. That would probably be guaranteed not to leak and the best way to go. But, that's a lot of work to just do something like this. I think you're better off doing kind of a makeshift hot glue, keep everything in there, somehow way of doing it. And again, there's probably other ways. I've never really had to do this type of thing. Or if I did have to do something like this, it was an issue where like it cracked in the mold, and I didn't cut it into a bunch of smaller things. Like I just kind of left it in place and poured more on in the original mold. This is a totally different thing where we had a 10 by 10 by 10 cube. So it's a slightly different kind of game than I would normally be doing something like this on. So let's get this lamp out of the way. I don't want to get it all resiny. All right, so why don't we just try the hot glue method on these little, the Millennium Falcon one first and see how that goes. This one seems like as long as you can get a bead of glue, down below the wood line and then up the edges, this one doesn't seem to have as many cracks and separations going on right at the wood, the surface of the burl, whereas this one seems to have more like separated areas. See, look at that, where it's all separated in there. And so this one seemed to me like there's more possibility of hidden things that I can't necessarily tell leaking, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this one. Seems to be a little bit more to it kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. I just kind of winged it, We're just winging it. All right, so let's see. How are the cameras going to work here? I think what I'm going to need to do actually is I think I'm going to need to put a camera kind of behind me a little bit. I think that'll be the best way to do this. So I'm going to kind of stick this right here for now. And then I'm going to bring this camera around the other one and try and kind of get that. Well, how am I going to do this? Hold on, guys. I got to switch to the other camera so I'm not dragging so you're not getting seasick. I think I'm actually going to try and use the one we were just looking at. I think that'll actually be a little bit easier. It's a better picture on this camera, and it's also a little bit smaller, so I can kind of just mount it onto my pressure pot, I think, over here. I'll have to kind of see what's going on. Another thing, the deep pour, because of that long working time, you've got more time, for air bubbles or anything like that to get out. So this is a good one if you don't have a pressure pot for something like this, which frankly, I don't think I'm even going to pressurize this stuff. I think we'll be okay. All right, so let's get this thing kind of like this, like that. How about that? So you can see me applying this stuff, I think. I'll try and kind of angle it so that you guys can see. I got my hot glue gun already ready. It's nice and warm. Let's stop and see what you guys are up to. Bailey asked, does Alumilite have a stabilizing resin? No, they don't. They have, you'll want to use like cactus juice stabilizing resin for that kind of stuff. There's a couple other brands. Cactus juice is probably the most well-known. That's what I use. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna get these things out of the way. I just got to kind of stop and take a breath, think what's going on. One other thing, what I was thinking about this is I was thinking glow powder for filling these cracks. So Alumilite sent me, they got some new glow powders that I did try. I don't know what I use this on now. We used it on something, and I'm actually really happy with this stuff. It doesn't seem to be as abrasive, but it does seem to be pretty glowy, I think. I haven't really like made, you know, like a test sample thing where I'm comparing the two, but what did I make? Did I use that on? Huh. I'm just looking at blanks that I've made over here. I can't remember. We used it for something. We tossed it in there. Can't remember. All right, so let's get going here. So I think this is actually going to be the way to do it. Let's move you guys up a little bit. That's the way to go, I think. Okay, how about that? Hopefully it won't flicker around. So again, now on this side, there's not a whole lot going on here. Like frankly, I could probably get away with not even putting one on, but I also, you know, just in case there's some weird hole or the resin can seep through, we're gonna put a bead down the side, kind of down in the wood, and then back up the side, and then I'm gonna slap on one of these guys, press it down. I actually think it would probably be a good idea to get something kind of flat and heavy that I can kind of press it with. Doesn't have to be like ridiculously heavy, but just, you know, flat and yeah. I got a brick of Raider blanks. How about that? Yeah, that ought to work. Okay. Gotta cut those. All right, so let's do this. Okay. I'm just going to slap that on there and press. All right. I think I put it on the wrong way, but that actually is probably smarter to have a little overhang on a couple sides. So let's flip this thing over. I guess that's another way I could have done that, is just flip it over. I cut these to be the right size, but I actually think I like it having two that have a little bit of an overhang, and then we'll just kind of fit the other two inside. So let's give it another shot here. This one has kind of a weird, there's a very thin piece of resin right here where there's a crack. So I don't know if that might be problematic. I might give it a little extra hot glue after we get the other side on there and just kind of try and, you know, really dam it up. Okay, like so. Now the problem is, what I should have done was the other two that fit perfectly first. That probably would have been smarter, but because now I can't put it down on its edge. So I'm gonna go get something that will fit in there. There we go. We can get this thing kind of raised up, but I'm not going to bend those plastic things. Are you guys still seeing what I'm seeing? Okay. And again, there's a little bit of kind of separation here. I can see a couple little holes, so I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm below the surface edge where the resin meets the burl there. So we'll just pop a bead. And I need to get some extra glue sticks. Okay. And then that gives me kind of a little bit of a wall. Let me get some more glue here. That'll give me a little bit of a wall that I can kind of just put a huge bead of hot glue on and make sure that it's nice and sealed up in those corners. All right, so we got that one. We'll let that cool a little bit so we can flip it over and see what's happening here. Doug made it. What's up, man? I think I saw Christina wasn't feeling too good. That's not fun. I hope you feel better soon. Yes, I forgot to mention, so I'm going to flip to this view. Somebody was like, "Oh, no mistakes, just happy accidents." I'm like, I have that shirt. I can't believe I didn't put it on for the video when I was kind of explaining what happened. So I thought it'd be, you know, pretty good idea to wear this for this one. What was Doug saying wait Zach for? I'm not sure what I missed. Not sure what I missed. Something smells like it's burning. Nice, you saved 24 bucks with the code. I like it. Yeah, at first they were like, "Oh, you already have a code," and I'm like, "That's a one-time use code, man. Come on, this is a subscriber giveaway kind of thing." I'm like, those people probably already used that discount code. So they rallied and they found. Actually, what I should say is, you guys thank Carol at Illumilite for hooking us up with that code, because she's the one that actually. You know, it's not like I was going to tell them how much of a discount. I just said, "Hey, can you give me a discount? Would you be, you know, could you do that?" And Carol was like, "I'm trying to get you the 15% discount. That's the biggest one we do." And I was like, "Sweet." So if you guys call or anything like that, let Carol know, you know, if you have to talk to her, you know, give her a thank you, shoot her an email, because she helped get that thing. All right, so I got to switch to the work area view here. Here we go. All right, so let's do the last one, and then we'll kind of put this aside, let it kind of, you know, cure up a little bit and all that kind of good stuff. Before we pour resin in there, I'll just give it a little bit, you know, a little bit of time. Just to make sure. Okay. And then we'll do that kind of thing right there. It's a little warm. I will warn you. It's a little warm on your fingers, especially if it squeezes out and gets you. It actually isn't that bad wearing gloves. But just to let you know, it's hot glue. It can kind of hurt. Get it all over you. Okay. Now hopefully we shouldn't get any leaking in the bottom, but again, like I said, I don't know. We'll have to kind of see how this goes. Oh, I'm out of glue. I need another stick. I think I got lots of glue sticks. Okay. I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to kind of set that over here. And hopefully that was, you know, enough seal, enough of a seal, good enough seal for that to work. All right, so now this one is going to be a little bit easier. I would say a little, well, I don't know. We'll have to see. What we're gonna do is fold this up, bend these two walls, so we'll get, you know, two walls out of one piece. And then these are a little bit longer. It's the same idea. And then we'll just kind of, you know, dam the side up. Now, what I am going to do though is it's the same game plan. I'm going to go, you know, put a bead down the side, across, and up on each side of these things. And then after we're done, we're going to have a little corner that I'm going to, you know, put another bead of glue in there for. So hopefully this will all work. Like I said, if it's something where, let's say that I cast this and it cracked. You know, this is what I cast. I had this square mold. Much easier to just leave it in the mold or put it back in the mold that you originally had and just pour some resin on it. That's a much easier way to go. But, you know, for makeshift molds, this, you know, corrugated plastic or, you know, whatever you can find is probably probably good enough type thing. Ozzy got $30 off. Nice. That's sweet. Julie! Oh no, it's interfering. That's not fun. Nice, they got you to reorder. It's funny how that actually works that way. Sometimes it, you know, you need something and you're like, yeah, I'll get that someday. All right, so I guess let's see here. I'm going to bend this now. We'll just do this one side first. I think it'll be easier if I'm doing it like this. Now that I've got that bend, it'll be easy to fold it. So I'm just going to put this thing up, run a bead. Okay, put it down, bend it up, and I'm actually just going to flip this over. Hopefully this will work. I don't know if you guys can see that, but trying to kind of keep it, you know, centered. I'm just going to kind of keep some pressure on that for a second, while that glue kind of firms up. You always get asked by people why you talk to yourself. It helps. It helps. Sometimes you gotta, oh no, the flu. That's not fun. Yeah, everybody doesn't do that. What's going on? It actually is. The weird people are the ones that don't. You got to worry about the people that aren't talking to themselves. What's up with those people? Oh, kind of missed it a little bit. That's okay. I'm gonna do it again on this side. Hopefully, yeah, that worked okay. I want to double check and make sure that there's no crack on the bottom there after doing that. Okay. I don't know about this whole bending thing. It might have just been, it's probably, really there's not much difference doing it the way that I did it the other way. I don't know, whatever. We're trying different stuff. You never know until you try. It's not really looking a whole lot different though. Okay, and then like so, I'll just flip it over, press, just kind of hold it there for a minute. It's not talking to yourself. It's called a staff meeting. That's funny. It's true, especially when you work alone. That is a staff meeting for sure. Okay, we got a couple of sides on, and then these guys, again, I am still going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a bead on the side, but then we'll come back and we'll get in the corners just to kind of give it a little bit of a little extra, making sure. And I'm not being stingy with the glue. I'm putting a big bead on because we want to make sure that we're getting this thing. Where's my? I want to make sure that it's dammed up in there so that the resin can't really leak through or anything. Glow in the dark resin. I know. I'm excited too. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with this stuff. What did we use it on? I cannot remember what we used. I think the green on something. I'm not sure what we used it on now. But it seems like this stuff, when you turn the lights off in here, I mean, this stuff glows like crazy. Let's try it. I bet it'll pick it up. Maybe we put some glow in the dark in, I don't know. Looking for things that are glowing. You guys see that? Look at how glowy these things are. Check that out. I didn't even hit it with a UV light or anything. Not too bad. And like I said, they're not as like crunchy. It doesn't seem like. I don't know if they can get away from the abrasiveness, and I haven't necessarily used a whole lot of it, but it seems like it's a little less abrasive than some of the other things that I've used. I don't know. That's a feeling. You know, I have no clue if that's actually true or not, though. All right, so I'm gonna have to do this on this side just because of the way that I'm right-handed. Just getting it. Oh, I need more glue. Hold on a minute. Stock up on glue. I'm gonna have to. Actually, I'm okay. In a little bit, I'll have to get some more. Okay. I got that corner. And then I'll do this corner. You guys can see this one. Okay. There we go. Now it's just the last side. Just looking at this, make sure I know what I'm doing. And then press. So pretty easy setup. I mean, this is, you know, not much to it. Now, one thing that I'm noticing, kind of messed that one up a little bit, but I can shave it. You know, I didn't have to, the glue line isn't at the bottom. You know, the glue line is just below the edge of the burl, so it's up in here somewhere. So technically, you really wouldn't even necessarily need a full-size piece unless you had to glue it at the bottom of, you know, the cube. So let's just kind of shave this off a little bit. Try to be careful not to cut into the bottom of that thing because it is, I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, this bottom piece is actually completely useless the more I think about this. So just to let you know, you don't really need to, I don't know about the bendy thing. I think that might just make things more difficult. Okay, so I think we're ready now. One thing I am seeing though, I didn't get my edges dammed up, and this would have been a problem. There's a gaping hole here, and I am going to pour a little extra on the top. So you want to make sure that you get, you know, all the way up. At least, you know, for the way that I'm doing this, I need to make sure that we've dammed up the entire thing from top to bottom. Kind of almost more importantly, the top in this case. I'm gonna do a couple of, oh, it's kind of just leaking down the bottom, but that's okay. I'm gonna do a couple coats, let's say, on these sides to make sure. Not a time to be stingy with your hot glue. All right, whoo-wee. Hurricanes. Is there hurricanes going on? Oh my God. You can never have enough glue sticks, I'm telling you. Come on. Cure up on me, cure up. Let's go. I think I'll put another little bead on the inside here. Oh, I need some more glue. We're out of glue again. There's some trick where you can like heat up the glue and like kind of like put them together. I don't know why I mentioned that. It was a neat glue stick trick, glue gun trick. We're just gonna have to like wait a little bit. This stuff just does not want to cure up on this side. Gotta get that stuff cooled down. Yeah, I know. Glue sticks are extremely cheap. Resin, not so much. Not at all. Thank you, Raiders Blanks. You served your purpose well. Gotta get those things cut and added to the store. Jeez. Technically, they should have already been cut, but I just keep running out of time lately. All right, at least this one, I think, is pretty much ready to go. So we'll just kind of keep, I'm just going to keep adding, you know, a little bit here and there to this other one to get this top wall, or the, you know, this side kind of dammed up. It just doesn't seem to want to. I'm trying to make the glue defy the laws of physics, I think, and it's not exactly working. But it will. I will force it into some submission, and I'm not going to pour it to the top of this. You know, we'll just add a little extra so that it'll have some, you know, to kind of sink down in. So why don't we put this aside, I think, for now. Yeah. Just looking at what's going on here. I think we're pretty good here now. I think that one will be all right. So here's our little tray. Let's get this guy in there. We don't want to, like I said, worst case scenario, put it in some sort of a tray if for some reason, even after gluing the heck out of it, it doesn't work. All right. So we're going to be using the deep pour. Now you could use, you know, liquid diamonds would be a good resin for this, and it wouldn't be that super long working time kind of thing, but it would be the low viscosity. You could probably use Amazing Clear Cast. It's so thick that I think that you're better off going with a thinner resin. You could use a Lumelite Clear slow set, or just the regular set. Probably could work, but I think you're better off if you're trying to fill cracks and little things like that. You're just kind of better off with a slower setting resin. That's the advantage of slow setting resins, you know, is it has, you know, more time, obviously, to kind of flow in and around stuff. For a lot of what we do, I would, you know, I want to use the Lumelite Clear slow set because it's fast setting, which is kind of funny also. That's like the opposite of, it's slower than the regular set, but it's a pretty fast setting resin, which, you know, that way you're not waiting around till the end of the working time when you want to pour for like color swirls or stuff like that, or suspending objects, or, you know, different things like that. A lot of times you're going to want to wait till the end of the working time, and I think it's a disadvantage having a really long working time if all you're going to do is mix it and then walk away for 30 minutes. So anyway, so we got deep pour. It is 2-to-1 by volume. That's what I was pretty sure about that. 2-to-1 by volume. So we got to get our volume measurement cups out for this. I have no clue how much we're going to need, but the beauty of it is it doesn't really matter that much. I'm going to pour more than we need, basically. Let's see, how am I going to do this? I'm just going to mix it all up for both of them. There's no way to tell how much resin this is going to be, so I'm just going to kind of go for, like, tough thing is my brain works on weights a lot better, weight measurements. So, but I think what we're going to do here is, I don't really need a new cup. I'm going to, it's not like we're going for dead clear. So let me get this, I'm just going to clean a cup out over here. Oh, and I'm pretty excited. So TCP Global Casey and I are going to be affiliates for TCP Global. Basically, the Resin Cast podcast is going to be. And they're going to be sending out, they got a pressure pot. I've said in the past where I've kind of complained about TCP Global that they didn't, you know, many years ago, I bought one of their pressure pots and called them and they were like, oh, I wouldn't use it, you know, above 35 PSI. And it just kind of worried me a little bit about, they just don't know what their pressure pots are being used for. Well, that has totally changed. They came out with a casting pressure pot that I'm pretty sure it is the best, like out of the box. Like I think you can hook a hose up to it. It's like ready to go. There's like nothing that you need to do. They've confirmed it's good to 60 PSI. So I'm pretty excited. They're going to be sending me one of those. And it's definitely, it's always tough for me to suggest to people that may not be doing much more casting than like once a week to say, oh, you should really go out and get a CA Technologies, even though it is the brand that I have all kinds of experience. It's a great pot, but you know, people are on a budget. And so these will be a good option where it's the same style as CA Technologies, same look kind of thing, the way the clamps work, but it's cheaper. So I'm really excited about that. Plus, somebody said that the TCP Global cups are better. They don't crack as easily, the mixing cups. And so they're going to send a bunch of those out to me too. So I'm pretty excited. Wrong one. There we go. Okay, so let's get things rolling here. I'm going to just kind of move that. So I'm just going to mix more than we need. You know, I'm not that, I don't care. We're going to go for, it's a 2-to-1. So 2 parts of the part A. Let's see. 2-to-1. Which one do I have 2 jugs of? Yeah, 2 parts A to 1 part B. So let's just, it doesn't matter, I don't think, which one you pour first. I'm just going to go, let's just do 300 ounces, I guess is what these are, or milliliters. Yeah, milliliters, 300 milliliters total. So I'm going to put 100 milliliters of part B. I just have the jug open. Oh, I think I went above that. Let's go to 150. See where we're at. This is why I don't like volume measurements. Because unless you have a tabletop that's 6 feet high, it makes you got to bend over. Ugh, so tough. All right, so just a little tiny bit more. So we're going to do 150 and then 300. So we're going to go up to the 450 mark, I think, right? 150. You guys see what I'm doing here? 150, and then we need 300, twice as much of the part A. Okay, and like I said, you gotta get down, you gotta get your head down eye level with that line. You can't look at the graduations from up above at an angle, that it's gonna be off. So that's actually, for people that are using volume measurement resins, if you're getting weird, you know, like it's not curing properly or you're having issues, that may actually be what the problem is. That's why I'd honestly rather just use weight, because the scale doesn't lie, you know. The scale doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're looking at it from above or from the side. It's like, it's, you know, 200 or whatever the number is. So I personally prefer that way, but so I need to go up, and here's another little trick tip thing, just so you don't mess up. So I need to add 300 grams to 150, which is going to put us at 450. So I'm going to just put a little black Sharpie mark. I'm going to not cover that graduation line. And that way I can kind of have a visual cue while I'm pouring it so I don't go over. Okay. So I'm going to get close. The part A is a little bit thicker than the part B of this one, just to let you know. It's not super thick, but it is a little bit thicker. Probably would be easier to pour the part A, the thicker part, first. It's easier to kind of sneak up on the thinner part, I find. We got a ways to go. All right, so let me stop and get down to eye level view. Still got a ways. See, I'm telling you, you gotta double check at eye level. Otherwise, it's not going to be correct. Still got to go more. Okay. Ooh, one more little blip. I think it can go one more. Okay, I think that's good. Let me stop and look, double check, we're good. Okay, so now we can mix it up. And it's really thin, you know, so that part A is a little bit thicker than the part B, but because the part B is so thin, I mean, this stuff is super thin. It's like the same thickness as Alumilite Clear Slow Set. Oh, it was nice out. It's pretty cold, like everywhere in the country, it seems like. So I'm going to give this a good mix. I'm not hurrying. You know, I got 2 hours of working time. No need to whip this like it's, you know, we're making cookies or something. Scrambled eggs. I'm just going to kind of, you know, mix it reasonably. Probably go for like 5 minutes or something like that. I don't know. Probably start around 3:56 according to that clock. So we'll just go till, you know, at least 4 o'clock, maybe a couple minutes past, just to make sure that we've mixed this. Because, I mean, and it's not ready yet. It's got trails of stuff, you know, going on in there. So we're not even close yet. So you got to definitely mix it until visibly there's nothing trailing, wispy cloudiness. Once it clears up, then you're getting close. And I would really recommend with most of these epoxies to give it, you know, a couple more minutes. You got the time, so don't, you know. The two worst things that can happen is, and you know, with that video that I just did where, you know, we're trying to salvage blanks. The thing is, if it doesn't cure, you're done. You know, like then the thing's going to get thrown in the trash because there's nothing you can do. If it starts a reaction, but you know, the mix ratio is off or you didn't mix it enough, there's like really not much you can do at that point. So just, you know, make sure that you're mixing and measuring properly. That is the most crucial thing. As long as that happens and the resin sets up, then even if you have a failure, a mistake, you know, whatever you want to call it, if things go awry, you still may be able to climb out of that hole, you know. But if you didn't even, you know, mix and measure properly, then you're hosed. It's just, then that is a waste of money for sure. So just want to kind of mention that a little bit. So I have poured a few things with this. You guys probably remember, and I'll show you. I don't know which, if we did it on the either way, whether it was the Patreon or not. We did those cutoffs, and the pen blanks where we just use cutoffs look great. Everything looks good. I can't wait to, actually we used Alumilite Clear for that, so never mind. That's not an example. But the other cutoffs were the autism puzzle piece blanks. And I got some bad news. I was actually trying to get this blank ready for turning, and I actually dropped it off the lathe and it cracked. It just, I undid the chuck and it just fell off straight onto the concrete, and there's cracking. But the thing is, I'm really certain that it didn't adhere to those things that I stuck in there. And I told you I was worried about it. The problem is I did two things with that. So I still haven't actually gotten just a flat out, you know, deep pour. How does, you know, a normal blank that is not going to have any problems that I can turn, which I think is kind of, that was a dumb thing for me to do. I should have just made a blank that was, you know, pour it and see how it works kind of thing, without, you know, doing it in the wrong ways, basically in ways that it was never meant to be used, or it's a very difficult, it may not work with any resin kind of situation. So, all right, so now it's clearing up. Like, you really can't see any swoopy trails in there, wispy. There's just some little air bubbles. But I'm going to keep going. So I don't know. Now it's 4 o'clock, and I actually took a little break in there. So we want to go for a couple more minutes. Gotta go back to work. Oh, man. Yeah, I know. It's even kind of cool in, like, Arizona. Vegas, I think, is pretty cool. Usually, whatever Arizona's doing, Phoenix, like the Phoenix area, Vegas is kind of similar, usually. I'm a little bummed because it's just dry. Like, it's a little cooler. Now it's starting to sort of feel like fall here, because it's been really nice up until last week. But we haven't had any snow or rain or anything. Like, there's no moisture. It's just, it's ridiculous. Especially with all these fires going on everywhere. At least Colorado got dumped on. They were getting pretty out of control with their fires. I think that snow kind of helped to, you know, like, probably put those out. At least kind of stopped them in their tracks a little bit. All right, so we're at 4:02. I'm just gonna give it a minute or two more here. We'll go till 4:03, 4:04. Just make sure you wipe off your stick. It's like watching paint dry. Watching resin get stirred. Are we having fun yet, guys? I know I am. All right. I think 4:03 is going to be long enough. Okay, 4:03, guys. I think we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is we're going to dump off. I kind of want to see how much we got in there, and I'm just going to kind of sort of split it in about half, I guess. So I'm just taking a cup. Let's see, can you guys see what I'm doing? No. So I'm just taking an empty cup here. I'm going to zero my scale out, so that should give me approximately 0. I'm going to get rid of this stick. And just kind of see how much resin we're dealing with here. So almost 500. So I'm just going to pour 250 in this cup, split it in half. And the thing is, though, don't think that I'm going to do anything, add anything to the second cup. I'm going to leave it clear, but we'll start working. So what I had in mind was, so we got a couple different glow powders. I think they gave me the green first. That's what I've used it on something with. So I was thinking the blue. I can't remember which one we've used now, but I was thinking the blue for the Millennium Falcon piece, and then we'll try the green glow in the other one. But I'm not going to add the green glow. I'm going to split these cups up. So I can tell you, they sent the green. Which thing are we on? They sent the green because that's the only one that's open. So I have used that in something somewhere. Not sure where. I think I added that to that other one with the autism pieces, but not very much. All right, so we're going to go with the blue glow in the Millennium Falcon. And now here's one little thing. So we're using a super slow setting resin, right? And we're just going to mix it up and pour it because I want it to kind of seep in. Now, this stuff usually, glow powders are usually pretty heavy, so there's a good chance that this stuff, like the majority of this stuff, is literally just going to sink to the bottom. And I'm okay with that, actually. That's fine in this case. It's still going to have glowy stuff down in there. I don't really care if that happens. That's perfectly fine with me. Another way we could do this, actually, is to add some, you could add, just a little bit of resin and add a bunch of glow powder and just pour it down and try and get that to go as far down as possible. Let it kind of skin over and then just pour clear on top so you have higher visibility. That could be another way to go. I think I'd rather just pour both these today, though, rather than, that's the problem, is there's time. Like, even if we did Alumilite Clear Slow Set, I don't know how well epoxies work on top of Alumilite Clear, so that could have been one of the problems that I had with that big casting. And Carol kind of said that some people have had issues with that, so I don't think that I'd want to try and do that where it just kind of halfway skins up and then pour something else on top. Hopefully that made some sense. So I'm just going to pour about 250 in this just to kind of split this in half. All right, so we got that. We're going to go with some blue powder. I'm just going to add let's just see what a half teaspoon. No, I'm gonna get a quarter teaspoon. Which camera are we on? Let's do that. No, that's not the right one. Okay, let's do a quarter teaspoon at a time, and just kind of see, because what ends up happening is this. It's not like this stuff is totally clear. You add glow powder to your resin, and it's going to become kind of milky. So we got a quarter teaspoon. I'm going to mix it in, and I'm going to kind of see what we're looking like, because I don't want it to be super, cloudy. And I think it's, if we added too much more, it's going to start getting really cloudy in there. Can you guys see that? Like, it's, just not transparent. So I think a quarter teaspoon for this 250 grams is all that I'm really willing to put in here, because visibility is more important. The more glow powder you put in, the more glow you're going to get out. The brighter it's going to glow. I don't have any ratios or anything like that I can really share. A lot of it might just come down to the specific piece that you're doing, how deep the thing is and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. And I really just don't even have that much experience with glow powders, really. But, mixing this stuff, it's not like some of the other glow powders that I've used in the past. It would sound like I'm mixing sand in the cup, literally. And this stuff doesn't do that. And that's one of the things I'm kind of curious. I want to try more of this stuff out in turning blanks, because one reason I stay away from it is because it's so abrasive that the saw blades, if you're cutting multiple blanks out of a brick, I mean, your saw blades toast after you cut that. You got to go get it resharpened. And I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm not willing to do that too much. It's just expensive. And if this stuff isn't so abrasive, then I would be willing to use it more often. Okay, so I think we're ready. I don't really think there's anything more that I need to do here. So I'm going to move this over. And I think our mold's good. One thing I am going to look at here, I'm going to just hit this with this other mold here. We got a couple, that one side, I'm just going to touch it up because it's hardened finally, that one corner. I'm just going to give it a little bit more, a couple of these areas just to make sure. Okay. Got glue strings going all over the place. I'm going to get my glue gun out of my way, let it cool down safely. I'm going to wipe off my two measuring spoon things. So we're going to use the green on the other one. All right, so what do you guys can see good? I'm going to close this up so I don't accidentally spill it somehow. Get the green back out. All right, so now I'm just going to pour a thin amounts basically. I'm going to give this one quick mix, a little stir. And we're just going to pour a little bit, and just kind of let this stuff seep down in. And I have no clue how much it's going to take to get it filled, but we'll just keep kind of adding more. And that's the reason why I don't want to add the green glow powder to that other cup because, who knows, we may actually need it to get this thing filled. It's kind of interesting now. I'm looking down the side and you can kind of see, the resin's kind of, pooling down there. So I think this is going to work okay, hopefully. I don't know. I can't make this blank too much worse, I figure, so. Let's give it a whirl. And then you can pick the blank up and kind of move it around to, to try and kind of help work it in there a little bit. Ooh, clearing up the surface there. You can start to see the Millennium Falcon. The visibility's coming through. I never actually did this, applied any resin to the top, but you can see it in there. And I also want to mention, nobody said this, but some people might have kind of thought this. I don't think the Millennium Falcon had anything to do with any of the cracking or any of that stuff. It was simply a matter of just too much resin. It could have been a moisture. Moisture could have also contributed. Because I wasn't super diligent about checking drying out those burls. I think they were okay, but I didn't do it super diligently. So yeah, you can see in there. It looks great from the top. Can you guys see it? I'm gonna scoot it over here, and then drop you guys. I got resin all over my fingers. I'm gonna drop you down. Look at that. There it is. It's in there. I see you. So let's keep going. This could turn out really wicked. I don't know, guys. I guess I think I will pressurize this. The more that I think about it, because I really don't want to have more bubbles in there, So maybe I will. I don't know. It's tough because I actually really need to make blanks tonight too. Before I leave the shop. I'll have to think about it. I got lots of time before I have to actually make that decision. Maybe we'll do one under pressure and one not. Let's put the Millennium Falcon under pressure just to see how that goes. Okay, so we still got plenty of resin left too. Now the sides of this mold are going to probably bow out just a little bit. Oh, how did I get that? Oh, shoot. I didn't do that right. I didn't do it right, guys. There's in a wall there. Well, that was poor planning. That wasn't very smart at all. All right, so I'm going to need to do a little bit of on the fly. I got another little piece of that stuff here. We're gonna do an add a. I don't know how I messed that up. There's no wall on this side, so we're gonna kind of add. I'm gonna wipe that off. I'm gonna wipe the resin off because it just dribbled down, and then we're gonna add some hot glue to that. I don't think you could make it worse, Scott. Come on. Let's be reasonable. So I'm going to wipe that. You don't really want resin on the surface of whatever you're trying to hot glue. It just doesn't really help you much. So we got to pull the hot glue gun out again, warm it up. No big deal, I don't think, but I don't know why it just started flowing over and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, there's no wall there. So we'll just have to kind of take a little bit of a commercial break here for a second. I think I still have more to fill over here where it's not going to overflow. So it's just kind of a slow process with this, I think. I think you're better off doing it this way. Add a little bit, let it kind of seep down in there, tap it around, move it, do that kind of stuff rather than just dump a bunch of it on top and hope that gravity works in your favor. I think it's kind of a better way to do this slowly. Yeah, it's looking good on the side here too. So, I mean, there's bubbles and stuff. This is absolutely not the most perfect thing that I've ever made, of course, right? But, everything's looking all right, and I think it's going to be interesting. Once all this stuff sets up and we've moved forward here, I actually think this thing is going to be pretty cool, because all I'm going to be doing is just squaring it up and polishing it up. I still don't think that well, at this point, I wouldn't want to turn this because there's not enough. I cut it really close because I intended to make a cube. With a Millennium Falcon, you really need to have a good diameter sphere. That's why it made kind of sense to make an 8.5 inch, a bowling ball size one for this, because otherwise it distorts too much. So the little X-wings work great in a 4-inch, but Millennium Falcon, you're going to have to go up, really probably for a sphere, you're probably going to have to look at something that's like, bare minimum 6 inches, I would say, but probably more like, I think 8 is really where you're in the zone kind of thing. Hey, thanks, Chase. I appreciate it. Yeah, you could use a syringe. You guys, anybody that I have tried them, frankly, I don't like them. I do not have the skill to use syringes very well. Typically, you don't really need a whole lot of, technique or anything like that, but I don't think it would be I really don't think it would be that much more amazing using a syringe even for this. You could just kind of pick it up and move it. I think you'd get just as much. It's just as easy as using a syringe. So now I'm looking at the side of this thing now too. I don't think that we're having any. I don't see any leaks yet. That's the other issue. One thing that I might say. One thing that might have been smart is to maybe do a line on the top, maybe, so that if resin does come out, you've kind of trapped it all the way around on the sides where there is a crack. Maybe, I don't know. There's maybe a little bit of a leak on this side, but hopefully we'll be okay. Okay, is my hot glue gun going? So I'm just gonna, yeah, there we go. I guess just kind of do it like this. Okay. And then I'll add a little bit more in these corners here. On the fly. Fixing things on the fly. So I'm gonna wait for that to cure up. Is it a curing? I guess, I don't know, what do you call that? When the glue hardens? I don't know. We're still not adding to the top surface yet, so I'm just going to keep kind of boring a little bit more here. But I'm pretty happy with this. I think that we can do something with this, which is kind of a relief, I would say, because this was really, you know, like obviously the Millennium Falcon part of this was really the whole project, right? And so it was cool that I made a lamp, but that had nothing to do with what I intended to do with the project originally. And so if we could salvage the Millennium Falcon part and just make a cube or something, then, you know, that's a super win, I think. Super win. Chad says hi. Oh man, actually I gotta call Chad. Let's see what he's up to. My live stream, our live stream schedule. So I usually do, and I might have to start, I am just starting to get like kind of overwhelmed with all the different things that I've been doing lately. So Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific time are definite. Absolutely. We're going to do that every week. Wednesdays, and at the beginning of the lockdown period, the quarantine thing, I added Mondays and Wednesdays, and I kind of had to drop Mondays eventually, and now I'm starting to kind of look at the schedule. Wednesdays are going to be kind of tentative, I think. I want to do them. It's just, you know, like today I was trying to shoot video, and things just end up running together. You know? And I don't know, I'm starting to kind of realize that I'm just kind of biting off more than I can chew, trying to keep up with all these things. So definitely on Fridays at 3 p.m. We do resin casting on that day. And then Wednesdays we're kind of supposed to be for turning type projects, like turning what we made. And so that one's going to be a little bit more tentative going forward, I think. But I'm gonna try to do them on Wednesdays too. Some of it just, you know, may require a little bit better planning on my part. But that's the schedule. What I'm kind of hoping with this is if the glow powder doesn't just all totally sink, we're going to get, you know, what I'm thinking is you'd have like little glowy kind of streaks going through this where all the cracks are. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to actually happen. Like I said, I think the powder part may end up just kind of sinking because this stuff is just such a long working time. But and that would probably happen with, you know, liquid diamonds or anything that's like a 45-minute working time also. The tendency would be, unless you waited, you know, till the end of the working time, which makes no sense in this situation, you know, you would probably have that happen no matter what resin you used. So, but I'm hoping some of the particles kind of stay up so that in the dark, this thing kind of has these like weird blue glowy things going on. So I think I might have to do a little bit of leak control down here. I think what's happening down here is, I think part of the, well, thing's kind of hanging off the edge. But I think what happened was it's kind of leaking in and out of the wood. So I might have to get a little creative with that really quickly here. I think, you know, over time that may turn into a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and, this thing's really flimsy. I'm just going to put that down. But we're going to try and sneak a little bit of hot glue up under there, maybe. Like I said, it doesn't tend to really enjoy being just kind of glued onto like a resiny surface, but I think I'm going to have to try. That would be one drawback. If you do have a leak, having a 2-hour working time with your resin is going to make things even worse. So just a little bit of a warning. Again, put as much glue as you possibly can all over this thing. That's your best bet. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little pen blank here to kind of prop that up. I'm going to try and wipe it off on that end. Try and wipe off the resin, and then just like kind of shove some glue in there, basically. Okay. I gotta be careful that I don't totally dump all the resin out. Don't think that I'm gonna be able to get optimal viewing pleasure for you guys right now. I have to kind of work magic. Well, I haven't spilled yet. I didn't even spill the resin out of the top. That's skill or luck, one of the two. So after seeing that kind of gives me an idea for our other mold that I think would be a smart idea before we even get started. And that's to just put a bead on the bottom edges just to make sure as like a last line of defense type thing. So, can you guys see what I'm, no, not really. Work area. Okay. So, let me just get this thing out of here. Here's what I need to do. This is what I should have done the first time. I can access it if I hang it off the table. Smart guy. There we go. I think I fixed it that time. I'm just going to keep adding more. Okay. I think the problem is solved. So, did you see what I was doing? That made more sense. You can actually access it hanging it off the table there. So on this one, we're going to add a little bit more glue and just make sure that even if somehow I kind of screwed up and there's like a little leak, we've got it fixed. It can't really go anywhere. I need another glue stick. Reload. Okay. All right, I think this one is going to be bulletproof, guys. Bulletproof. All right, now I think that's good enough. I'm going to put it back in its little thing. And we're going to keep going here. Switch back to the overhead. The struggle is real. It is kind of fun. Okay, I may as well just leave that stupid thing plugged in because you just never know when you're going to need some more hot glue. All right, so I think we've kind of gotten it to the top. At least we're pretty, pretty darn close. One thing that I will advise is, just because right now it looks like it's at the surface, like give yourself a little extra wiggle room just in case like air bubbles kind of maybe pop and more volume can be, pushed down in, or who knows what. Just give yourself a little bit extra on the top just in case that level goes down over, the course of time, basically. Now I've already got quite a few air bubbles in this entire casting, so I mean really, whatever. We're kind of splitting hairs, pressure potting this. But, I think you're going to get better visibility in these little cracks and all that stuff. So I think we'll give this one a shot, trying to get it, we'll pressurize this one basically. But I think we'll just leave the other one out and just kind of see what the difference is. See what happens. And so you can kind of squeeze a little bit and see those little air bubbles. That's actually not a bad reason to leave that a little room on the sides here. Kind of push air out a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Now most of this surface layer I'm going to probably just cut off again. I don't really want glow-in-the-dark, a layer of glow-in-the-dark on the top there, particularly. I'm actually kind of surprised. This took, we're going to use up all that resin, 250 grams for this. All right, so let me see here. Are we still leaking? It doesn't look like we have another leak. I think we might have kind of fixed it. I think we're good. All right, so I would say there's just a little bit left in the cup. I mean, let's just pour it in, and I think we're good to go. I'm going to put this. This might be kind of difficult to get in a pressure pot at this point, actually. But I think I'm going to try. Let's just see what we can do here. Let's get this hot glue gun out of the way. I'm going to attempt fate. I don't think we're going to need it again. So I'm going to switch to this camera view so you can kind of see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in this one because I can access that from the back. This, trying to get over this work table is not going to be particularly fun. So that one's done. Well, that's not going to work too well. Didn't think about that. But I'm just going to slide this over so I can pick it up, and then we'll just toss it right in here from the other side. Not too bad. It was snug, but it worked. So now, how long do you keep deep pour pressurized? This is another thing. On the bottles, they don't. It's not like they tell you how long that, like, especially in like a weird case like this. What they're going to tell you is tack free time 24 to 72 hours. Okay, so I mean realistically, for something where you're talking about these thin cracks, like I would probably recommend leave it in definitely for 24 full hours, not just overnight, like full 24 hours, if not, I mean, a couple days is not a bad way to go. That way I would lean towards the longer time that it's going to need to stay under pressure. Okay. So I'm actually not coming into the shop tomorrow. Thursdays are my day off. So, I'm going to pressurize this. It's going to be, definitely till 4:30 tomorrow. Nobody's going to release it. And then, I mean, I think what I'll do is on Friday around 4, let's see, Friday we're going to do some casting stuff. So I'll probably pop it before the stream on Friday, which will be, you know, we're talking almost 48 hours. And I think it should be set up enough to be fine. And I'm also, you know, the shop's never going to drop below 68 degrees. That's what we have our heater set at. So, you know, 2 days under pressure is probably plenty. I think you're good, you know. But when you're pouring something very thin like this, you're going to really need to, you know, it may kind of need 72 hours in this case. I don't know. It doesn't set up fast. It's not like Amazing Clear Cast or something like that. Oh, come on. That was so sad. Womp, womp, womp. All right, so I've taken it up to 70 PSI. And let's see here. So the other one, I think what I'm going to do is kind of trim these things up so it'll fit, because I actually do kind of like this. This is a perfect thing. So I'm just going to kind of trim these excess things. It doesn't fit in there. I'm just going to kind of cut them up. That's not really providing anything useful anyway. Okay, hopefully that'll work. That work? That works. Fits. There we go. Flip it up to this side. View thing. I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Okay, and we got our other 250 grams. Now, this one seems like it has more stuff, possibly. So I don't know if 250 is going to be enough. We'll have to just see, you know. Worst case scenario, we just mix up more resin. It's not that big of a deal. Let's see, we got a little bit of resin left. And guess what I got, guys? Well, I got a few things, but I haven't even shared this yet. I got some dice molds from someone on Etsy. So let's make a triangle one with the excess. See if we can do this. I don't know. Nope. That didn't work. I thought that was probably going to happen. You just never know these days. Might need to actually use a syringe for a mold like this. Let's do it. I'm just going to use a syringe because this is a case where it just totally makes sense. Oh, I got syringes falling out at me. Okay, so you guys probably can't see what I'm doing at all. So this is the glow in the dark stuff. So we're gonna suck it up. Is that working? I'm telling you guys, I suck with these needle things. Let's make a deeper little cup of it. Okay, it's working. Sorta. All right, so we got a syringe. I don't know where. I think I got these syringes on Amazon. A little bit more. There we go. So we might have a glow-in-the-dark dice here. We'll have to see how that turns out. So I'm just going to set that aside. I'm not going to pressurize it or anything. Again, probably not the greatest use with deep pour you know, for a super small thing, but that's okay. It'll set up eventually. Okay, so we got our other one. So I want to add, we're going to go for the green, Alumilite's green glow powder. I don't know if they have any other colors. I'm going to get a new glove. Got hot glue all over that thing and it's making it weird. I'm going to get 2 new gloves, guys. I'm going to do it. I don't care. Marinade injector. Yeah, I've used pipettes too. It's, you know what? There's only so many things that you can excel at, and I don't excel with those. I don't really excel at anything, but I'm a lot better at other things than syringes. More practice needed. Okay, so we're going to go with the green again. We could add fluorescent dye as well to this. That's one of the only problems with glow powders like these is they look milky in clear resin during the day when it's not dark. So one thing you can do is you could add maybe a little bit of pearl powder. I don't know what we want to do with these things. This is kind of the question, I guess. So why don't we add a little bit of their fluorescent green dye to the mix as well, just so we have something during the day that's not just kind of milky-ish. So we got 250 grams. You can add up to 5% of half of that. So, but we don't want to add a whole lot. So I'm just going to add 0.01 times 125. So about 1 gram is what I'm going to add to this. Let me get some more paper towel thingies. So let's add a little bit of fluorescent green dye, and then we're going to put some green glowing green stuff. I love the new bottles. So on their dye bottles now, Alumilite, they have these little just twist top things. They're awesome. Amazing. Sweet, awesome bottles. Okay, so 1 gram is what we're going to add to this stuff. There we go. Oh, we went a little bit over maybe, but that's okay. So this is going to be green. But I think the glow powder should also go through this stuff. I added 1%. Again, you can go up to 5%. That's and you're talking about factored against half the resin, or the part A, they say. That doesn't make any sense. So that's not what we want. I think a better way to say it is just 2.5% of all the resin that's in the cup. Okay? And so that was about 1.25 is 1%. Sorry, is 0.5%, I think. I don't know. It gets all confusing. I'm much better at just factoring dye amounts against half of the resin that's in the cup. That's the way that I think about it. So it was 1%, looking at it that way. Okay, and then we're going to go with another, let's try a 1/2 teaspoon of the glow powder this time. I'm kind of like, in this one, let's accentuate it. I don't care if we have like slightly degraded visibility things going on. That's okay with me on this one. I'm hoping that it just, the cracks and the green and the glow and all that stuff just looks cool in there in general. Close that up. Ridiculous syringes. Not good with syringes, guys. Terrible. Put the glow green fluorescent stuff away. Okay. So we're just mixing it up. A little bit I'm hearing a little bit of more sandiness. I don't know. That's another thing, is I tend to put a ton of glow powder when I use it in things. And so that's another reason why a lot of times the blanks that I end up making with glow powder are just super abrasive. So. Yeah, Alumilite resin is good. It depends on, you know, what do you do, because they got a lot of different resins. We're using the deep pour right now, which is not, this is not a very awesome example of what you would really want to use this for, I don't think, but it's going to be great for river tables and things like that. But if you're making turning blanks, I think the best way to go is just Alumilite Clear Slow Set. That it works for everything that in that realm. And I like the way it turns. Another one that's pretty good for turning, but you have to watch how much you're pouring at a time, is Amazing Clear Cast. A lot of people do like it. I don't like how thick it is to mix. It's very thick, like molasses. So not my favorite kind of thing, but it's useful. We're actually, there's a few things that we're going to make with that I have planned coming up though. So that'll be fun. All right, so I think it's sort of mixed. All right, I think I'm going to call that good. I don't think it's going to get any better. So here we go. Let's start pouring a little bit in there. Now again, you got to watch out if you're filling a blank that cracked. The cracked surface is extremely smooth, right? So you got to really watch what you're doing if you're going to intend for the thing to end up being a turning blank. I don't know that I would really recommend. Just be careful, because there's no guarantee that these, you know, the filling that you're putting in, the fill job, is really going to like hold this thing together particularly well. So you can still result in a fairly dangerous blank that could come apart on a lathe. All I'm doing is we're making cubes, so it doesn't matter. It's gonna hold. It'll be, you know, it'll kind of stick to it no matter what. And all I'm gonna do is just kind of sand the surfaces up. But just want to kind of give that little warning. You know, it's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be the best bond. Resins don't like smooth surfaces. They don't stick to them. They need a mechanical bond, something to grab onto, something scuffed up kind of thing. So like I said, slowly but surely we'll get going here. I'm just trying to kind of work it around, make sure that, you know, if there's any different directions that it could end up going in there, that I get the resin to kind of flow in and around things. This one's got this one I think has a lot more like weird random little pockets and things in there. A little bit more, it seems, maybe than the other one. So I'm going to really do a good job of kind of, you know, picking it up and moving that stuff around. I may have to do a little bit more work on this, because there's a couple things, like there's separation at the burl on a couple of these sides, and so it kind of depends on whether the resin ends up going down the sides. Basically we may have a few more little things to kind of fill on the sides of this thing, depending on how everything ends up working out. See that bubble there? Hopefully we're working the resin in and around little areas, forcing the air out and resin in its place. Dominic's multitasking. What are you doing? Usually you're eating dinner at this time. All right, so, you know, I think that's looking pretty good. You can maybe tap it and do that kind of stuff. I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to give this a good filling. I'm going to fill this up, you know, relatively high, fairly high, and just kind of let it sit. And this one I'm not going to pressurize. We're just going to let it kind of sit. And I just want to give it plenty of resin, you know, for it to kind of seep down in, and hopefully everything's fine. Now, worst case scenario, if for some reason all of this seeped down into all the cracks and you had to fill more, then all you do is just fill more. No big deal. But I think I'm going to probably kind of call it quits on this one now. And we're going to fill another die. Let's fill another die. Ooh, this one should be a little easier to fill. So I'm actually going to move this over to a different table, because I got to do other work tonight still. So I'm going to put this on my assembly table, but that's it. That's all we were doing tonight. I just wanted to get those things filled, and now it's a waiting game. You know, because I chose to use deep pour, and frankly, even if I was using, you know, liquid diamonds or anything else, there's going to be a good waiting period before that's, you know, really hardened up, because it's very thin. Things of resin, you know, we're just filling cracks with it basically. So let's see here. So I'm gonna try this one. The sprue is a little bit bigger. I'm gonna see if I can't maybe just get it. You know what I'm gonna do is actually, like I said, I really am just not a big fan of. I'm terrible with those syringes. So let's see if I can maybe just put it in a thinner cup. Paper cups are pretty nice because you can kind of bend them into a thin little funnel thing. So let's see if I can't just fill this thing up without having to use a syringe or anything. I don't think I will. This one's like a octagon or something. All right, so we got another die. I think I'm gonna see. It looks like I need to fill that one a little bit more. Did I already dumped out? Got a little bit more right there. I'm gonna use my syringe again. Add a few drops to this one. All right. I'm going to put this one over there. Now, once again, you know, as air bubbles kind of leave the surface, the level can kind of drop. That's why it's nice to fill up the extra, the sprue, you know, so that it's got, and it's the same idea as what we were just doing with the cracks. You know, if the level, if there's room for the resin to go down there over time, then you want to have extra resin on the top so it can fill. Otherwise, if all you did was just try and fill this mold up just to the top of the die, what's going to happen is it's going to have a depression, basically. So we're going to get all kinds of green, glow-in-the-dark ones. These are cool. And I got these from Warpy Dice. I don't know. I mean, I can make my own too. But I don't really have all these dice. I don't have, you know, masters of any of these things. I'd have to buy them. And I thought, let me just see what's going on. So Warpy Dice on Etsy. WERPY. And I don't know them or anything. I just looked for dice molds. We'll see how these guys work. Okay, so I'll just put these guys aside. I think I got two more. We still have more resin, so we're good to go. Now I could pressurize all these, but I don't want to use the pressure pot up because I got other things that I need to use them for tonight. So we'll just see how how we do with air bubbles in these dice. They may not be the most amazing dice on the planet. That's okay. One thing that might be useful, and I was telling you about, you know, trying to kind of work it in, might not be a bad idea to pour a little bit in these molds and then kind of, you know, get the surface kind of wet first and then kind of fill it more. I don't know. I don't know if there was even, if there was instructions with this. I didn't read them, of course. But, you know, not a bad idea. To get that surface kind of wet and kind of ready to adhere and fill in all those little grooves and number slots things. Okay. And you don't want to squeeze it or do anything because these molds come apart, right? See, when you're demolding it, they'll come apart. So you don't want to be like picking this up and squeezing it and deforming it. I'm just trying to kind of, you know, very gently kind of tap this without much pressure, just to kind of release any air bubbles that may be hanging out. This is the first time I've ever used dice molds, so I'm also not an expert. I'm just kind of talking as I go. Any thoughts that I have about these? So we'll have to see how they turn out. I am hoping that they turn out good. This looks like a 6-sided die. So these, I think these are all for like, you know, like games and stuff, like board games and role-playing games. They don't have like the little dots. They have numbers on them. I do have some dice that I can copy though, that are normal. You know what I want to get? There's a domino set resin molds. How cool is that? That would be awesome. You can make your own dominoes. All right, so my cup is being lame. I'm gonna find a new side. I think I can see an air bubble in there. that's not in the mold. Okay. So we have some dice ready to rock and roll. We got a little extra resin. I think I'm going to let this go to the wayside. Oh, you just got the domino set? Nice. Yeah, I guess it was on Amazon that I saw them. Maybe I might have seen them on Etsy too when I was looking at the dice. But that looks pretty fun. Those are a good one because the way that these things work, the top surface is just flat, right? Of dominoes. So it's just a big tray, and like it looks, I don't know. It's like a thinner version of this. So it's it's just a tray where you pour it in. But all the little number things are down in the mold, and then the backside would just be flat. So it's a pretty simple, easy way to make something kind of cool, and you could make some really funky colors. And honestly, I think those things would sell pretty well, like a set of custom dominoes with certain colors or whatever. I think it'd be kind of cool. Nice. Checked. Oh yeah, I don't know if it'll fit in the pressure pot. They might make them where it's not as, because they're kind of like long and skinny. But that would be a case where, your slower setting resins, you could easily, depending on what you're doing I guess, but that's a case where you could probably get away with not using pressure as long as you just use a slower setting resin. If you're trying to get color swirls in there though, you got to wait till the end of the working time, and it doesn't necessarily, work that well. I usually, especially if you're trying to do color swirl stuff, or you're in a situation where you have to wait till the end of the working time, just because you have a long working time resin, they all end up having about the same working time in the end in that situation. So you're going to kind of need a pressure pot, most likely. It's the best way to go to eliminate air bubbles. But Amazing Clear Cast could work for that kind of thing. One thing about Amazing Clear Cast, the thickness of it may actually, and I've heard that some people said this doesn't really work, but it is thicker and it may actually keep colors separated a little bit better while having a little longer working time. I don't know. It's so thick though that I don't know if it really has enough time to get air bubbles out. I don't know. It's so much easier just to get a pressure pot as long as it'll fit. Now, one thing to note, if you have like a Harbor Freight pressure pot, they're a little bit skinnier and taller than CA Technologies. You can put it on its side, or if you have a 5-gallon pot, put it on its side and it'll fit in there. So there's a little tip for you. So cut up, yeah, you can maybe cut the mold up. Yeah, buy like 2 of them so that you, or like a lot of them, and cut like certain parts out of it. Maybe, I don't know. One thing that you could do is cut it in half, and silicone sticks to silicone. So you could buy yourself some silicone somehow, and like close off the wall. I don't know if it's fully open the whole way, but you could add a little bit more silicone maybe. So anyway. All right, guys, so I guess that's about it. So like I said, this one's going to be the one that we pressurize. I'm leaving that thing in here until like right before the stream on Friday. I'm going to pull it out then and kind of hope that everything, has set up fully and all that stuff. It's probably going to be kind of soft. That's the thing, is I think that it will have like hardened, enough to pull it out of the pressure pot, but it's probably still going to be pretty soft, bendable, and you could push your fingernail into it. So it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to really just wait like a week, like a good 7 days for this to like harden up. The beauty of epoxies is it may be kind of soft for quite a while, but eventually it's going to harden up. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. It's just, a waiting game. And then the other one's sitting over there, and I'll kind of have an idea of that'll actually, so here's the thing, that'll give me a good gauge as to, is it set up, is it still liquid or something like that. I'll know from the one that we didn't pressurize if it's ready, if the one that is under pressure is ready. So it should be pretty cool. So on Friday we're going to be we got something cool actually. I have a lot of stuff that's coming up, so that's why usually on Wednesdays I would have turned something, which I really want to try turning some of those blanks that I salvaged, but I really wanted to get this project done today, you know, and get things rolling with that. So that's why I chose to do a casting thing today, and then we're going to do another one on Friday. Mike over at Soko Joko, he sent some skateboard blank, or you know, whatever, shavings. So a whole bag of them. And so he's actually tried casting them himself, and he gave me a couple tips. He said he kind of like packed it super full. So we're going to try a couple different things, see if we can make some really cool stuff out of these skateboard shavings that he sent. So big thank you to Mike for sending those guys. So that's what we got going on. I don't know exactly what we're going to make out of those things, but hopefully you guys will bring some good ideas, and we'll work together. I don't know if we're going to really need much color or anything like that, but we can kind of come up with different, you know, pen blanks. Do we want to make, you know, like handle blanks, put like maybe a sphere or something like that, whatever. We can do all kinds of different stuff. So that'll be the next stream, Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. So I really appreciate all you guys joining the fun tonight. Sorry about last week. I took it off. I needed a week to kind of catch up. I needed to kind of finish up that 50K subscriber video and, you know, put everything together with that. And just get a little bit of time. I actually had a couple of personal things that I like, errands and things that kind of blocked on those days for me to be able to stream. So we'll be back next week also. But Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be back in action. So it'll be pretty fun. I can't wait to see what we can make with those skateboard blanks, or shavings, I should say. So, excuse me. So I hope you guys all have a good evening tonight. I will be, let's see here. So we'll find out what we got on Friday, I guess, is what I'll say with these guys. But I have really high hopes. I really think that, you know, these are going to turn out pretty cool. I don't know. That's just my prediction. If you haven't gotten entered into the giveaway, so there's, like I said, 2 giveaways or 2 prizes up for grabs with the 50K video. And there's a link down in the show notes to that video if you want to check it out. But I have all the information on how to get entered. You have to leave a comment with some secret words if you want to get entered. So there's a blanks package prize with a bunch of different blanks that one winner will win. And I'm actually drawing that tonight. So you need to get entered like today, like right now. It's going to end, I'm going to close it off at midnight or 11:59 p.m. tonight. So get entered for the giveaway. So there's blanks, and then there's also the pedestal bowl, the green and pink one, the really big cool one that we used, that box elder from Doug, and then poured a bunch of resin on top. So that is up for grabs too, just in case, you know, there's people, for the people that aren't necessarily turners or don't maybe have a workshop, couldn't really use, you know, turning blanks. We got a project. I thought that I'm going to start doing that from now on with giveaways. Have something that I've finished, you know, maybe a pen or something like that, but also have some blanks that we've made on the show. So we got the giveaway, and then there's also discount codes, the Turner's Warehouse and Spirocraft discount codes, 10% off. Those are ending today, I believe. Maybe you might get them tomorrow as well, but make sure if you need to stock up on anything, save that 10% with both of them. Links down in the show notes to Spirocraft and Turner's Warehouse. And 15% off at Illumilite. So all of these need to be done online. You can't like place an order on the phone, just to let you know about that. And then they can't be combined. So just little disclaimers and stuff like that. But 15% at Illumilite. So make sure if you need resin, silicone, dyes, you know, Illumidust, any of that stuff, go and get your order in. 15% is like the biggest discount that they give. So, and that one's going till November 6th. So some of you guys, depending on how much casting you do, you can maybe order them today and then order some more, and it'll be awesome. You'll save 15%. So anyway, guys, again, thank you for joining the fun tonight, and I will see you guys all on Friday.